Preposterous was the word that Arum used in the decision of the arbitration. He still plans to go ahead with the fight on August the 14th in Saudi Arabia. He said, we're not paying Wilder step aside. It's better to get rid of him and go about our business. So, wait there. Bob expects Anthony Joshua to wait till November, December after Fury fights Wilder. Why would Anthony Joshua wait around? I mean, how long does he think Anthony Joshua's got to wait around for Fury and not be handling his own business for his own legacy in his own career? It's better to get rid of Wilder than go about our business than pay him the step-aside money. They're not going to pay him step-aside. That's what I said on Twitter. Then he said he wants to make the Joshua-Fury fight for November or December. Frank Warren and Bob Arum have had very negative energy all throughout trying to put AJ and Fury together. Obviously, Eddie's been very positive and very involved in the process. And when it looked like he finally got it over the line, despite what all the naysayers were saying, this happens. But Eddie's just as culpable here. Because look, we don't do legalese. We don't know about no legal ish. We was led to believe from Arum that arbitration isn't a problem. But Eddie should have known that, even if we didn't. And he still went into negotiation with Bob and Fury, knowing that arbitration could be a problem. But what was he supposed to do? If he didn't pursue the fight, because he's worked with Prince Khalid already, everyone would say he didn't want the fight. Joshua's running. Joshua's protected. And all that other nonsense that the Joshua haters say. So he went out there and made the fight. And something's telling me that Frank Warren and Bob, with the energy they've displayed during the negotiation, is that, they were holding something back. And maybe they were just trying to hold out their man Team Wilder and buy some time and try to ride out the pandemic, but still keep the fight relevant. Because we saw Canelo do 75,000 in Texas, so maybe they may be allowing crowds back at American sporting events, and they're thinking, yeah, we can get Wilder Fury free on now and make a go of it. Now, that's just me being perhaps a little paranoid. I'm not going to deny that, but I'll put it out there as a theory, a possible, plausible theory. AJ's a quiet guy. He doesn't really talk about neither Wilder or Fury, unless he's trying to nail down a fight with them. But them two, they live off AJ's name on some clout-chasing bull crap. You've got to look how positive Eddie Hearn has been all through trying to make this fight. And then, you had Fury. Oh, we're nowhere nearer getting this fight done than we was last year. Then his dad, they need to get the fight done. Why don't they sign? No, why don't you sign? And then Tyson, his dad, and everybody kept talking about his inactivity, and they're going to fight someone else. Who are you going to fight exactly? Who? If you couldn't raise the funds to fight Ajit Caballero, who are you going to fight? Maybe Wilder. Last year, after Wilder kept shitting on his name, he said he'd never fight Wilder again. But soon after that, he said, I might be fighting Wilder in reference to Hearn not being able to get the AJ fight done. But with Fury, it's hard to tell and separate the lies from the truth, isn't it? Often. Listen, looks like they've been stalling for time. Just saying. It says here that Bob's also exploring the possibility of Wilder fighting the winner out of AJ and Fury as a resolution to Wilder winning the ruling. Well, if AJ wins, he's not obligated to fight Deontay Wilder. Now, Bob may have tied Tyson Fury into a 2-fight deal in 2020 with Wilder, but Eddie Hearn didn't do that with AJ. So, unless Wilder becomes a mandatory, don't be trying to tie AJ into your legal situation. AJ, by November or December or whenever, is going to have enough issues with the mandatories from the various belts that he holds. Now, whether he fights Fury at all or fights him once or twice, after that, he's certainly going to have to fight a mandatory straight after. And maybe another mandatory straight after that. Probably the WBO and IBF, but being a super champion with the WBA, they'll probably give him a little bit of an extension until he's done unifying and become undisputed. So is this why the warm-up with Ajit Caballero didn't materialize? Because Fury couldn't afford to put that belt on the line with the arbitration in motion? Is this why? I have a feeling Tyson Fury knew how deep the arbitration was. And with the day of the arbitration just gone by, Monday. He made sure on Sunday that he said yes, he's definitely fighting Anthony Joshua on the 14th in Saudi Arabia. Try and cover himself to say, yeah, look, I wanted to fight. We wanted to fight. We was all on board, and then them big bad Americans stole the fight away from us with arbitration. Damage control. It's got to be straight to the point. Wilder doesn't want a third fight with Tyson Fury. He wants a payout. His team want a payout, with 150 mil guaranteed and more to come. They want a huge whack out of that. Bob doesn't want to pay him. But Bob's in a dilemma that he's got a lot of boxing fans expecting this undisputed fight. And maybe the only way to deliver it is to pay Wilder off. And it will come out of Fury's end, not Joshua's, obviously. Frank Warren, obviously not on the same page as Bob Arum. Doesn't look like he's got much authority in making decisions. He's saying they have two options. Agree, step aside deal with Wilder so AJ and Fury can go ahead. Or Fury fights Wilder again next. They're saying they're working hard to make the first option happen. But Bob said he's not going to pay Wilder. So that contradicts what Bob's saying. Does he actually talk to Bob? I don't think Bob talks to him or consults him or considers him as an equal partner. Because they're always off kilter. The people behind Deontay Wilder, they don't want Joshua and Fury to fight because Eddie is going to have a monopoly on the game, promoting Canelo as well. And now he's got AJ earning how much? One fight? I mean, listen, Canelo can't command any kind of purses that Joshua and Fury are splitting for this fight. So they don't want to see it happen. So if a payout can't happen and they've got this ruling, they'll have no problem sacrificing Wilder to take another beating from Fury. They'll have no problem doing that. Now, Malik Scott, can he make a difference to Wilder's boxing ability? He's going to need to, because it's hard to see the third fight going any different from the second, isn't it? Or am I tripping? The ruling was in America by an American judge for an American fighter with an American advisor against an American promoter managing a British fighter. Right now, everything America touches just turns to fucking shit. It's keeping it real. Lou DiBella, a PBC promoter representing Wilder, sat in a boardroom with the DAZN hierarchy to cut a deal for Deontay Wilder because Wilder and Shelly Fink or whoever can't stand Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn stepped aside, and John Skipper from DAZN, he was trying to get the deal over the line, but they declined the $120 million offer for 3 fights. One of them fights would be to fight for Undisputed, which Wilder himself recently said the purse he would have got for fighting AJ was more than what he would get for fighting Fury. That got blown. Wilder ended losing his belt, and if he does take this third fight with Fury, it's for 40% of the split. And look, the first 2 fights didn't recoup. They didn't recoup. So, what is there financially for the PBC or Wilder in the third fight with Fury? The first 2 fights didn't recoup, and that was before the pandemic, when you were allowed capacity crowds. Is this arbitration a real business strategy to get another fight with Fury, or is it just trolling? Is it serious or not? Time will tell, but you look at the PBC and the heavyweight division, they got no belts there. They held all 4 belts there when Ruiz beat AJ, and Wilder still held the belt. You could almost call it trolling at this stage here. The actual boxing business, there are Americans who are happy that this fight may not happen, especially as it's 2 Brits and there's no American contesting for all the belts. A lot of them have been rooting for Eddie Hearn to fail in America rather than be looking at the fights that he's trying to bring to the boxing fans. They're more interested in that. It's become very tribal. Not much about the sweet science at all, if you ask me. Look how America received and treated the WBSS tournaments. It's almost on its arse now. They couldn't get an American broadcaster. The only time that the real American boxing fans could see the tournament without illegally streaming it was on DAZN. You had a certain section of fans who were laughing at Usyk when he became undisputed like it didn't mean nothing, laughing at Inoue And the massive event that he done in Japan and the classic fight he done with Donaire, they were laughing at that. You know, Bob Arum himself bragging that he's not letting no fighters go in that tournament and not be fighting on our network, and then ends up snagging the winners of the tournaments like Inoue and Josh Taylor, who's fighting for Undisputed. He's a piece of shit, really. The piece of shit. Probably the main culprit in all of this. You know, him and Al Heyman. How many fighters did he send to compete in the tournament? I'll wait. Crawford and Spence has become an absolute joke with this side of the street politics that started this ridiculous attitude that the Spence and Wilder fans have towards boxing. Oh, I ain't letting no white man sell me out. What do you mean you're not letting no white man sell you out? Black man over this country and that country, you're not holding down the boardroom. Yeah? Most of the times you're in the playing field. If you want to be executives in the world, go send your kids to Oxford and Cambridge and Harvard like Al Heyman and keep them off the road. It's simple. Complaining about the plantation. Even Caleb Plant the other day was trying to complain about the plantation and Eddie Hearn selling him out. And he's white like Eddie. Remember all that shit they were talking about Joshua? Playing Man Friday to Eddie Hearn and that Eddie Hearn's ripping him off of all his money. Really? Let's see Joshua's net worth compared to any PBC fighter's net worth, including Wilder. Ridiculous. The PBC fighters keep saying, I'm a boss, I'm a boss, I'm a boss. Well, none of you got no management company like AJ that has managed an amateur like Lawrence Okoli all the way through to him winning a professional world title. Which one of the PBC boxers have did that? About boss. Yeah, there's only one landlord in this shit. Yeah, and it ain't Wilder. Which one of your fighters have did that? Like, crazy. You got the 135 division. You know, you got fighters with Bob Arum, you got fighters with the PBC, you got fighters with Golden Boy. And neither one of them can match their fighters together. These young fighters who should be building their legacies now. You can't get Haney versus Tank. You can't get Tank versus Lopez. The only decent fight we've had is Lopez versus Loma. You can't get Tank versus Ryan, etc., etc. Look at the 160-pound Charlo. Said he was going to fight Benavides and then backed out. Just the back. No, I'm not fighting him. I'm going to fight this guy who's lost 4 times. This Russian guy who's got knocked out how many times. I'm going to fight him. Michael Hunter just blatantly ducked Hrgovic. Ducked the fuck out of him to fight some second-tier cruiserweight. Right? And they have no shame about the decisions they're making these days. They have no shame if you call them a ducker, a coward, you're not a real fighter. And once you have a society where people have no shame about their choices, you're in serious fucking shit. I could expand on it more, but I won't. That factor alone is going to destroy... No, it has destroyed American boxing. The geriatrics are coming back and outselling the active world champions. Outselling them. YouTubers. Outselling the active world champions. And I know some of you are going to be offended about me talking about your country like that, but your country just turned boxing to shit every time it gets near it. Let's keep it real. Bob Arum, a few weeks back, got a big announcement for Crawford. That's imminent. Oh, great. He's going to fight Pacquiao? Spence? Huh? Who, Bob? Bob. Big announcement, Bob. Demetrius Andrade. The way they talk about him in America is shocking. Absolutely shocking. Rather than the media talk this guy up to get a unification or a career-defining fight, no, they just shit all over him. They made it easy for Canelo just to sidestep him at 160. Make it easy for Golovkin for the past 2 years or so just to avoid him. And Charlo, just make it really easy. How do you make it easy to duck like that? Because your country's turning boxing to shit. You got the bizarre situation with Don King and his heavyweights. Like this Lovejoy cat who got battered by Manwoo Chai saying his water was spiked, and Don is threatening to sue him for legal action for taking the fight. Like Lovejoy was supposed to fight Dave Allen last year, and Don put legal action on this guy. What for, Don? What's going on? You know, and then he's got another heavyweight, Trevor Bryan. Trevor Bryan in the middle of the mix of these lower tier, regular and interim and golden belts or whatever with the WBA. Don, you're arguably the world's greatest fucking promoter ever. Why are you fucking with these bullshit heavyweights? Go sit down and retire and make a podcast. I'll watch. Team Fury, Tyson, Bob Arum, and Frank Warren, they've let boxing down. You know what I mean? Like, they haven't been straight with us. The energy's been all wrong, Team Fury. Frank Warren, he's just become a lackey to Bob Arum. Didn't have enough juice to manage or promote Tyson Fury. So basically, he had to forfeit his promotional options and hand him over to Bob because he's not a big enough promoter. Frank living off his reputation. Not much bigger than Mick Hennessy, in all truth. When the Fury and Wilder fight looked like it collapsed, what did he say? He told AJ not to take the Pulev fight in case he gets chinned, and preserve the Fury AJ fight. Fuck out. Frank, go promote Sonny Edwards. Yeah? You couldn't even fucking bring Ramirez and Taylor, an undisputed 140-pound fight. You couldn't even bring that to Britain on BT. You got to go and access it on some website online. Just a few hours before this news broke, Fury was saying he's coming to take back what he never lost, talking about the 3 belts he won from Vlad, which AJ has now. But he did lose them. He lost them because, he cheated with the PD thing. And, he wasn't in no condition to fight. So he lost the belts. He didn't lose them in the ring, but he still lost them. It might be of consolation to him that somebody never took their fists and took the belts of him, but he lost them nonetheless, He's had his chances. Wilder's had his chances. They've both gaffed up, when it's come to AJ to fight for Undisputed, both of them. So I won't be rooting for either man. I rooted for Fury on the second fight because Wilder was pissing me off. And I thought it would be easier to get this Undisputed fight if Fury won. But right now, just let them fight if they're going to fight. Do what they're going to do. I'll watch from a neutral perspective. Now, let's talk about AJ, the unified champion, Mr. Consistent. AJ needs to understand this. Nobody gets 50-50. Again, until you lose in the ring or lose your market value, nobody gets 50-50. Not Tyson Fury, not Deontay Wilder, nobody. Until they can surpass your numbers, it doesn't happen. By a significant amount, not just a couple more thousand, nobody is A-side. As for Bob Arum, man, Bob has been practicing law since probably the late 50s, early 60s. He was in the US Attorney General Bobby Kennedy's office, yeah? And got involved in boxing in 1962 when he was investigating the closed circuit TV money for Liston and Patterson, the first fight. He's been doing law since then. So for him to be so belligerent that this arbitration wouldn't be an obstacle has him looking either really suspect or really incompetent. And maybe it's time to give it up now. Al Heyman, well played, I guess.
What conversations have taken place with Team Fury since the news broke?
Just really with Bob Arum last night. I think he was in complete and utter shock, and I've never really heard him speechless. But he's been very bullish throughout this whole process that, I know it's their business and we don't know too much about the contracts in the case, but this wouldn't be a problem. This wouldn't stand in the way of an Anthony Joshua Tyson Fury fight, and that's quite frustrating because, like I said, we've been working tirelessly to get this over the line. So he was, almost shell-shocked, I think. And then once he'd calmed down and done what he had to do, I think the move then was to speak to the other side and see if there's a resolution. As far as I understand it, Tyson Fury wants to fight Anthony Joshua. We have a deal to do so, August the 14th in Saudi Arabia. Spoke to our partners in Saudi Arabia. They weren't best pleased either. And I think the conversations are ongoing. But really, that's completely out of our hands.
How did AJ take the news?
It was okay. I mean, I guess he's been up and down during this process like we all have. And, the positivity from Team Fury this week and the acceptance by everybody that we have a deal was great for everyone. Everyone had started pretty much full training camp. AJ's been there a little bit. He's seen it. He's had disappointment. I mean, you look back to the Jarrell Miller fight, with that falling through 3 weeks before, with the Pulev fight, the first one falling through probably 10 days before. And he just said to me, listen, just go and do your work. He said, you're the man to take care of it. Over to you. I'll be in the gym. Let me know. And that was nice. It's nice to give that kind of responsibility. It got to about, 11:30 last night. And I just thought, you know what? The phone's going off. I had a very nice sleep. I spoke to AJ this morning. And we go to work. Again, it's just another day. Another day of ups and downs. This is called the boxing business. The only fight that we had our mind on was Tyson Fury. And we hope that fight can still take place on August 14th. The game changed last night where we have to have a plan B in place. And probably a plan C as well. And we have a couple of different options. Of course, the one that springs to mind immediately is the WBO mandatory of Alexander Usyk.